Hey guys, how you doing today? Coming to you with our Finance Friday. So I'm on a little later today than normal, but that is because I am trying to bring someone on. We're going to have a guest on today to talk to us about our topic today. So we're talking about how spending money in this one category in your business can actually help you be more profitable, make more money, and generate more revenues in your business. So as we are waiting for our guest to pop on today, wanted to just kind of tell you a statistic that I read last week that was, I don't want to say shocking because I knew this, but the number on it was a little surprising to me, even though I knew that this statistic was what it was. So the average business currently is only lasting 19 months. Yes, I said that. 19 months. It is absolutely insane the short amount of time frame that entrepreneurs are lasting in business and being successful after the amount of time, energy, and money that they're putting into starting our business. So with that little tidbit, I'm going to go ahead and add in our guest today. So we are about to bring in Bonnie Clinton with To the Penny Bookkeeping. So she's getting added in here. So while we're waiting on her, oh, there she is. Hey, Bonnie, how are you?
Much better, and I can hear you much better this time. I'm hoping we
Yes.
don't have an echo.
I don't hear an echo this time, so I think we're good. So now we know.
Learning lesson.
All right. Yes, learning lesson. All right. So as I was saying, Bonnie is with To the Penny Bookkeeping. She is a dear friend of mine, a phenomenal bookkeeper. And I wanted to bring her in as we've had conversations around this. And I know she's talked to some of her clients about it. I've talked to my clients about it. But it's a very common question to be asked. Why spend money on a bookkeeper in my business? And what is that actually going to get me as a result? Some people think that a bookkeeper is going to be really expensive. Is that right, Bonnie?
Yes, lots of people think that they're going to be paying, really huge hourly rates like accountants charge, and so they just avoid the situation.
Yes. So have a bookkeeper and accountant are two very separate entities. You should have both with your business, but a bookkeeper can do some of the data entry with your books, the reconciliations, all those things that you don't need to be paying the higher fees for an accountant, a CPA, an enrolled agent, one of those people to be doing on that end of things for you. So what we're going to be talking on today is a lot of times I run into clients, and Bonnie, I'm sure you run into this too, where they are spending 4 or 5 hours a month on their books, sometimes shutting themselves down and just focusing on things to get ready for tax season. Whereas having a bookkeeper in year round can actually help you in your business stay on top of your numbers, which we'll cover more here in a minute. But it also helps you to be less stressed out about it. And really, the amount of time that a bookkeeper is going to spend in your books each month compared to the amount of time you're spending in there is probably quite a bit less because of the skill and the experience and the fact that this is what they do day in and day out. So they know how to work around things a lot quicker than you do as an entrepreneur. So, Bonnie, how have you seen with your clients? What's probably the worst story you've heard, or not the worst story, but what's the longest time frame you've heard where somebody's actually taken and spent time on their books that now they've turned it over to you and they're just like, woo?
Yeah, so I have a client who, is definitely a multi-income client, and so her year-end time, she used to shut down about 2 weeks of her time, and as she used to put it, just lock herself in her office to truly get everything together, because she did nothing throughout the year. So everything was, go back through, find your bank statements, find your credit card statements, find your whatever, because again, she didn't even really know what she was looking for to find to make sure she picked up all her expenses. And honestly, her comment to me was that that was a nightmare. And so now there is none of that for her. And every month we chat, and she learns things, about what she's spending in different things. And at the year end, she's provided with a P&L to take to her accountant and is so much happier.
Oh, I can't even imagine locking myself down for 2 weeks to deal with that after not.
Yeah.
Because there's times when I may let a couple weeks slide by without doing it, and then I'm scrambling trying to figure out like what was that for, and trying to scramble. I can't imagine doing that for an entire year at a time. Wow.
Yeah. And I have several clients that when they came to me had not done any prior bookkeeping. So that's exactly what they were doing. And they're really amazed now. It's like, oh my gosh, I know this? And they had no idea.
Regular bookkeeping not only saves you that time, but when I'm working with my clients, one of my first questions is always like, okay, what are your numbers? What are your revenues? What's your expenses?
Mm-hmm.
What's your cost of goods? What is our bottom line profits in the business? And 9 times out of 10, I just get this look like, it's not tax time yet. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so bookkeeping throughout the year, I think really helps as an entrepreneur, one, to stay on top of their numbers, because you can't manage your profits if you don't know your numbers, and you have
Correct.
to know your numbers, and the regular bookkeeping helps them to know their numbers.
Correct.
So it's really easy with a bookkeeper, guys. You have, at the click of a button, you can get a profit and loss statement, you can get a balance sheet, you can get a cash flow statement, you can get all sorts of awesome reports that I'm not going to inundate your brains with on this Friday. But there are so many amazing reports that you can get by doing monthly bookkeeping that can help you keep a pulse on the finances of your business.
Very true.
So, yeah. So going back to one of my initial statements, as far as entrepreneurs thinking that the cost of a bookkeeper is just this really crazy number each month. So what I tell my clients often, and I want your input on this, is I'm often telling my clients what they are spending 4, 5, 6 hours a month doing their books on, or 2 weeks a year doing it on. As a bookkeeper, with your skills and your knowledge and your day in and day out practice of this, you're obviously doing it in less time. So when we're talking hours that they're spending and revenues they can't bill in that time compared to hours you're spending, I very often see that those numbers, I mean, their time when they can bill goes here and their cost for you comes down here. Do you see some equivalent to that with your clients, where they are saving more time or saving more money in a sense of the time they're able to devote back to producing in their business versus the time they're spending on their books when they hire you in?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, if you think about the fact that, let's just say you as a entrepreneur would spend, 4 or 5 hours a week doing your bookkeeping, that I might spend 30, 45 minutes a week doing. Because it's very common knowledge to me. It's very, just put the process together and get it done. Where you, with not having that experience, you tend to, first of all, overthink or underthink things that's being categorized. You'll spend hours trying to figure out what to do with something, or you just categorize it all as miscellaneous. And at the end of the year, the accountants love that category because, again, they didn't know what to do with it, so they put it all in miscellaneous.
Or the Ask My Accountant category that has $15,000 of expenses in it.
Yes, very much so. So, just having somebody that, takes care of that piece. I mean, if you think about it, if your own business, if you were making, $100 an hour and you just spent that type of money, or not made that type of money while you were doing your bookkeeping, what did you just lose in your business versus the time that you would have paid me for?
Yes, exactly. And I've actually worked with clients where I've sent them to a bookkeeper in the past, and then we've actually weighed it out, and I'm like, okay, you were spending 10 hours a month on this, and we're going to now do billable activities, income producing activities in your business. And within literally the first week or two of them having a bookkeeper, we see their revenues go up because they're spending their time where they best need it spent in their business.
Correct.
So even though as an entrepreneur, having a bookkeeper is money coming out of your pocket, when you actually look at the big picture, you're putting money back in your pocket because you're saving a lot of time that you can bill in your business and produce revenues that you're not going to have if you're spending the time on your books each month.
Correct.
So now I do want to clarify here, and Bonnie, I know you agree with this, but I am absolutely not a fan of handing everything over to a bookkeeper and just washing your hands of it until the end of the year at all. You absolutely, even with a bookkeeper is what I refer to as a second set of eyes. They are doing things, they're in there, they're catching everything on this. But with this, you have to actually understand what's going on in there. You still have to manage the numbers. You can't just put that all back on your bookkeeper, because if you're not managing those numbers and looking at them and understanding them, you're still risking your business being profitable, and you're risking possibly looking at being one of those businesses that closes down 19 months after opening.
Right.
So All right, so let me see. I know there was a couple other things I wanted to touch on with you here. So we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but at tax time, when it gets to January and everybody's working on getting everything done and everything ready for their accountant or their tax professional at the end of the year, how much, I don't want to use time or money in this reference, how much sanity do you think you save your clients in that area?
Oh, I save my clients a whole lot of sanity. I mean, that should be one of the recommendations right on my screen on my website that just says, I'll save your sanity at the end of the year. Um, Most people, I mean, as you just said, people want to wash their hands of it and, and not look at it. And so those type of people at the end of the year, they are like, oh my gosh, I have no idea. And I've given them to this nice little P&L, and they look at it and they're just like, I really spend that type of money? It's like, yes, you really spend that type of money. And then they're just like, I had no idea. And then this is so horrible. And, and they're going to go bankrupt and all this. And it's like, whoa, 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 let's stop. Let's look. Let's, again, have that conversation before you fly off the handle and lose your sanity because you
Yes.
didn't know in the first place. Yeah.
Well, and coming from my tax background, I know that clients who work with bookkeepers, it's a lot easier to get their taxes done as well for several reasons. One, we have things in a very organized fashion, so it makes it simple to move from the profit and loss in the balance sheet over to the tax return and bring in everything where it needs to be. But in addition to that, it gives me a point of contact when I say, okay, I need to know what's in this category. When I call a tax preparation client for that, they often don't know where to look in their books. But if I call you for that, you're like, great, give me 5 minutes. I'll have the report in your email. It's really nice from my tax background standpoint as well. As an entrepreneur, when you're working with a bookkeeper, it can often keep your costs on tax preparation down as well, because your tax preparer, your accountant, your enrolled agent, they're doing a lot less digging and searching and finalizing and amending and correcting of your books in order to just be able to get it into the tax return and get that information pulled in. So that's one thing there, that it is really beneficial working with a bookkeeper there as well.
Right.
So,
And I like with my, with most of my clients, it's like, I want to team with their accountant to make it easier for them, because again, and they don't a lot of times even know the answers to the questions. In the end, it becomes the accountant asks them a question, then they ask me the question, I answer the question, then they call the accountant, and in the end, the accountant still has no idea what the answer is. So we just talk in the first place, and
it's like an adult game of telephone.
It is an adult game of telephone. Yes.
Yes, or often when the answer comes back from your client to the accountant then has a follow-up question, and now you're doing this 3 or 4 times back and forth. Whereas if the bookkeeper and the accountant can get on the phone together at the same time, you can usually clear this up in a matter of a couple of minutes.
Right. Very much so.
Yeah. So, any last minute tips that you would like to give as we're rolling into a new year here in 2019 in regards to bookkeeping, hiring a bookkeeper, what they're looking? That's a good question I want to ask. What is something that an entrepreneur should look for when hiring a bookkeeper to make sure that it's going to be a long-term good fit for them?
I think a couple of things that you really need to look for in a bookkeeper. Somebody that kind of has an understanding of the type of business that you have. Like I work in various different, so sorry, my screen's going dead here. I work in, several different income options, and sometimes they ask me a question and I'm just like, that's really out of my ballpark. So you should probably find somebody that, works more in that area, because there are some differences in expenses that can be expensed. And the other thing it's probably my main thing, is that you need to meet with somebody face to face. And do you have a comfort level with them as far as trustworthiness? Because these people are now in your finances. And I think that trustworthy, integrity person, if you don't feel it, then I don't think they're your bookkeeper.
Yes, I think that is such good advice. That's advice I gave all my clients when I was doing taxes as well. I'm like, you have to have that level of comfort to be completely open and honest when we're talking finances, because if you're not, it's just going to hurt things more in the end.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
So last question, and then we'll wrap up here. And I thought of this. So when I think one of the benefits of a bookkeeper that I see all the time, and I'd like you to give your insight on this, but when I'm dealing with a client that doesn't understand where things go on the profit and loss, and so they may be shoving something into meals and entertainment that is only 50% deductible on the taxes, that could potentially be an advertising or promotional expense to them. So when you're working with clients, is this something that you look at and you strategize and you make sure that you're getting expenses into the most tax beneficial category for them?
Correct. So there's a lot of moving pieces to expenses, and that's something that people don't look at, because again, they do shove things into meals and entertainment, not understanding, or just meals at this point. Now there is no more entertainment. And then they shove it in there, not realizing that now they only get 50% of that for a deduction. They also sometimes, when they'll look at a P&L, they're just like, I spent, only $12 on advertising, where I did all this stuff. And it's like, well, what did you categorize it at? Well, miscellaneous. Or they put it in like utilities because it was like to do with their website. And it's like, well, your utilities, again, really have more to do with your lights and gas and telephone, those types of things, versus if you want to know how much you're spending on advertising, then you need to make sure that the entire piece to what you're advertising is together so that you have that understanding.
Correct. Yeah, and on that note, it's really important to make sure they're in the correct category as well, because when you're looking at return on investment for your advertising, if you don't actually have those numbers in your advertising, you're going to spend a heck of a lot of time finding those expenses in your reports just to be able to figure out if you're getting a return on investment there. So, well, Bonnie, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, everybody, this is Bonnie Clinton with To the Penny Bookkeeping. She is a phenomenal bookkeeper. If you are looking for someone, definitely reach out to her. I don't know what her capacity for clients is right now, but she is one of my preferred vendors for my clients when I'm sending someone for bookkeeping. So everybody have a great day. Thank you for joining us for Finance Friday, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Thanks for inviting me. Bye-bye.
Bye, Bonnie. Thank you.